Today, I want to talk about 4 questions that are going to change your life. But first, I want to lay a little groundwork because sometimes new concepts are not easy to accept. Sometimes human beings can be stuck in our ways. Sometimes undoing our stinking thinking is tough. Why are we like that? Are we lazy? Are we stubborn? Are we too old to learn new things? Nope. We are survivors. We have a natural instinct to do whatever it takes to survive, even without the proverbial gun to our head. We're always prioritizing our own safety. Think about walking home at night. You may be in a safe neighborhood. You may have done it 100 times before, and you may even feel pretty comfortable, but there is a part of your brain that's alert, making sure that's true, making sure you are safe. Only when you get home and you are 100% sure of your own safety can you fully focus on other things. But it isn't just physical threats that make us prioritize safety. Our body responds the same to an emotional, mental, or psychological threat. So this is where it gets interesting. If you believe you are under threat, your survival instinct is going to kick in and you're not going to take a risk. And most of the time, this is happening subconsciously and you're not even aware of it. Also, it's very individual. What your subconscious believes is an emotional threat is different from what I subconsciously believe an emotional threat is. So we are often subconsciously reacting to each other and lacking in compassion for what each other is going through because we have no idea what other people are going through because we have no idea what we are even going through half the time. So many of us don't take risks in life because we're already living in a high alert environment. Work is stressful, relationships are dicey, starting or having a business is scary, being a parent is nerve-wracking, and we only have so much bandwidth. We can't walk and chew gum at the same time all the time. So of course this makes us resistant to change. We're just trying to survive. But what's interesting is not so much that work and relationships and life in general are stressful and scary and nerve-wracking, but that our perspective and what we think and what we believe about all those parts of life are actually the things that are stressing us out. So let me say that more simply by using one thing as an example. And this is going to prepare you for the topic, the 4 questions that are going to change your life. Suppose your straight A student comes home from school one day with an F on a history test and this upsets you. If this example doesn't work for you, then imagine a situation that would upset you so you can play along. Before you realize it, multiple things are happening at the same time. But before I get to that, let's talk about the reaction. You have options. You could yell. You could excuse yourself knowing that you don't want to react when you're feeling emotional and go cry in your room. You could calmly or not calmly ground the child for the grade. You could demand an explanation. You get the idea. Now back to the multiple things happening, mostly subconsciously, at the same time that lead to the reaction. And they're all subconscious, unspoken, hidden, or unchallenged beliefs. Okay, here comes the list. And these are possibilities, not facts. We're all different. This list is also not exhaustive of the possibilities. Getting an F is bad, embarrassing, shameful, etc. Getting an F means one is stupid, lazy, doesn't belong in this family, etc. My child getting an F means I'm a bad parent, a failure, neglectful, etc. It's the school's fault. It's his other parent's fault. It's the system, society, etc. What will my parents, friends, neighbors think? This is a stain on the whole family. No wonder you're upset. Every one of those beliefs leads to negative feelings, and we don't like negative feelings. In fact, our bodies see them as a threat. So what happens? Survival mode. We immediately look for a way to feel better, i.e., find safety again. Unfortunately, for many of us, that means reacting poorly to a situation. But what if an F meant nothing at all? What if the F simply meant the information being tested didn't get learned for whatever reason? If you believe an F doesn't mean all these other things, what happens to the reaction? There's no reason to be upset, is there? So the reaction can come from a place of calm, concern for the other person instead of self, and a game plan for raising the grade can be discussed without anyone feeling all those negative feelings. And how it plays out in your family might be that your kid knew exactly how upset you would be when they brought home an F because their whole life you've been conveying messages that let them know an F is bad. Whatever you do, do not bring home an F. So that it wouldn't happen, so that you wouldn't have to experience negative feelings, when all along you could have just changed the way you think and what you believe about the F. Okay, so now you're prepared for the 4 questions. Byron Katie is an American speaker and author who teaches a method of self-inquiry known as the work of Byron Katie, or simply as the work. In 1986, when she was 43 with 3 children and unhappily married to her second husband, she reportedly suffered from depression, agoraphobia, overeating, and self-medicating with codeine and alcohol. Desperate, she finally called her insurance company for help, but after 2 weeks of self-reflection in her home, she reportedly experienced an epiphany in her thinking which created a way for her to challenge and lessen the harmful effects of long-held beliefs. She credited the epiphany, which became known as the work, for a subsequent weight loss and other reductions in bad habits. She describes her 1986 epiphany as follows. I discovered that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered. But then when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer. And that this is true for every human being. Freedom is as simple as that. I found that suffering is optional. I found a joy within me that has never disappeared, not for a single moment. Katie's experience, as described in her book, Loving What Is that all suffering is caused by believing our stressful thoughts. This, she says, puts people into painful positions that lead to suffering, as she recognized to be the case with herself. Through self-inquiry, she describes how a different, less-known capacity of the mind can end this suffering. Specifically, the work is a way of identifying and questioning any stressful thought. It consists of 4 questions and then what is referred to as the turnarounds. The 4 questions are: 1. Is it true? 2. Can you absolutely know that it's true? 3. How do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? 4. Who would you be without the thought? So now you can see why I prepared you ahead of time. This new concept can be pretty tricky to get your head around at first. Let's break it down. The first question, is that thought true, is a really good pattern interrupt because studies have found that the average person has 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. And of those 10,000s of thoughts, 80% are negative. And 95% were exactly the same thoughts as the day before. In addition to being a good pattern interrupt, it gets us to question our own thoughts. And questioning things like thoughts, opinions, theories, stories, and even facts is always a good thing. It's also a really good reminder that just because a thought occurs to us doesn't make it true, and this is so important. We have a tendency to believe that our thoughts are true. They've been our companions for years and years. I mean, why would I be thinking something if it wasn't true? But that thinking, and a lot of our thinking, is erroneous. So a lot of times our answer to the question number 1 is, yeah, it's true. Hence the importance of the seemingly similar and repetitive, but very different, second question. Can you absolutely know that it's true? And suddenly that easy yes is an impossible yes. There are very few things in this world that we can absolutely know. And again, this might be where you need to be willing to look at things differently than you have before. Be willing to open your mind to a new idea. But let's pretend we're all on the same page and that we can agree that question number 2 changes our answer most of the time to no, I cannot absolutely know that this thought is true. Sometimes it is true, as you will see. Question 3 brings us to the reason I felt it wise to prepare you for this topic. If you hadn't first taken a moment to think about the example of something upsetting you and how you might react to it, because of all of the meaning that you give it and subconscious belief behind it, then this question would seem a little bit abstract. But now you can read it with the eye of a pro. How do you react and what happens when you believe that thought? If you believe the thought that an F is bad, to keep it simple, how do you react? You get upset. If you believe that an F is just an indicator that information was not learned, you don't get upset. And this is really where the work comes in. Question 3 asks you to really examine all of your reactions as well as everything that happens when you believe this one thought. Katie intends this to be a meditation and or a journaling process, and I put the link below for her website where you can get worksheets. This is why it's called the work and not the play. And the fourth question, who would you be without that thought, is really asking if you weren't upset by the F and you could react differently, how would you be different? I.e., who would you be? Who are you when the F upsets you versus who are you if the F doesn't bother you? Deep, right? But we're not done. The last part of this process is actually the part she should have called the play, because I think this part's pretty cool. Turnarounds are a way of experiencing the opposite of the thought that one is believing. For example, the thought, my husband should listen to me, can be turned around to, I should listen to my husband, or I should listen to myself, and my husband shouldn't listen to me. Then one finds specific examples of how each turnaround might be just as true as the original stress-producing thought. How cool is that? And now I'm going to interpret a video of Byron Katie walking through the work. Enjoy.
The one I like to use is I'm standing in the kitchen like 30 something years ago with Paul, and he is lying to me. I caught him doing something and he's lying about it. I saw it with my own eyes and he's lying to me. And so we're standing in the kitchen. So that is I'm going to anchor in the kitchen with Paul as he's lying to me. That's the situation. Okay, so he's lying to me. The first question is it true? So now I'm going to meditate in that. It doesn't matter how many years ago it was, or if it was 10 minutes ago, it doesn't matter. He lied to me. Is it true? So in this case, I'm in the kitchen with Paul all those years ago. So is it true? The answer is either yes or no. So I'm looking for not the world's answer, but authentically my own. So he lied to me. Is it true? Yes, he lied to me. Can I really know that it's true? He lied to me. Now I'm going to double check that. I'm going to look at the two of us in the kitchen again, hear his words as closely as I can, see his physical, his attitude, everything in my mind's eye, and notice how I react when I believe the thought. He lied to me. And as I meditate in that, I can see how he reacted. I can see how I reacted. And what I see is my attitude. I can see it so clearly in my mind's eye. I was pointing the finger at him. I was waving my arms. I was pleading with him. I was begging him. He was smoking, and he had had 4 massive heart attacks. And the doctor said, if you don't quit smoking, this next one's going to kill you. I had all that running in my head. And he's saying he didn't smoke when he even smells like it. So he's lying to me. Is it true? Yes. Can I absolutely know that it's true? Well, I'm going to get really still in that because I want to know. Yes, it's true. And how do I react when I believe the thought? I attacked him. And so I'm going to sit in that. I'm going to watch the attack. I'm going to really get in touch with my attitude, get in touch with my emotions, get in touch with my words, my attack onto this human being. And that can be tough. And I'm not going to move away from it. I'm going to be there now and sit in it. And then I began to see images in my head of him lying to me before, and the past. And he's going to continue to lie to me. And I see him lying to me about it again and again. And I see him smoking again and again. And he's just never going to stop. He's going to die. Now I'm at the funeral, the future. So how do I react when I believe the thought? I see all those images, the ego and the not now past, the not now future. And I look at those images and he's suffering and I'm suffering. And I begin to notice that is not I. There are like hundreds of the me's and the hims in the past and in the future. So now I'm beginning to recognize who, the question, who am I? What am I? The ego is offering up what I'm not in this moment now. So I see the illusion and I see how I react when I believe the thought. That's how I believe it. The ego is what we're reacting out of. And then the 4th question, there are only 4. It's who or what am I without the thought he's lying to me. And so I look at him again. I look at me. And I see 2 really confused human beings at war. And when I look at it, it looks like a civilization so old that I can't even remember when it existed, where people literally did war with each other. Even though they loved each other, they did war. And the example that sets for everyone else. War. So who would I be without my story, without the thought he lied to me? And then I get really still in that as I meditate in that situation. And I see a terrified man. And compassion takes the place of anger. And I see I have a lot of amends to make. I have faults to admit, amends to make. And it shows me how to live the rest of my life, how not to live the rest of my life. And then I see him so frightened. So I sit in that for a while. And then I move to opposites. So he lied to me, turned around, he told me the truth, and I meditate in that. It doesn't mean he did or didn't. It's not about that. It's about sitting in the opposites and see what they have to show me. So he told me the truth. He told me what he wanted to be true, and he wasn't smoking in the moment. And, I'm just meditating in there. And is it possible I was wrong? Was it really cigarette smoke I smelled? Was that really a cigarette that he was throwing out the car window? Was I wrong? So I'm looking at, he told me the truth. So I stay in what I wrote on the sheet. He lied to me. I keep the same words. And is there another opposite? I lied to him. So now I'm going to meditate in that situation. Where did I lie to him? And I get really still. And I can't come out of denial if I don't know what denial I'm in. So this just blows denial to smithereens for people whose minds are really, truly open to the cause of suffering and how to end it. So I lied to him. So now, I look at anything I said in that situation that wasn't true. And I noticed that anything hurtful I said, wasn't true for me when I look at me. But they just roll out of my mouth. So I lied to him. And then I look back at past lies. Where else have I lied to him? Because I just don't want to carry it around until I see it. I have to own it. It's in me. So this is like house cleaning. Waking up to reality as opposed to what we believe reality to be in our own lives. So I'm not changing anyone's world. I'm changing my own. I'm shifting identities. And every second I'm sitting in this 4 questions turnaround experience. So I lied to him. And then in the past, where have I lied to him? So this is how I've spent my life. Only I can see it because every time I work with another human being, I'm doing my own work. So he lied to me. I lied to him. He told me the truth. And then that would complete the turnarounds that I can see, meaning the opposites of he lied to me. And that's it.
How cool was that? So you can watch the full video by clicking the link below. I also have links to her 2 books and journal, as well as her website with the worksheets below. And I hope you really got something out of this, and I hope you start questioning your thoughts with her method. It's really cool when you get into it. In fact, question everything. Don't let your thoughts be your master. Master your thoughts. See you next time.